It's logo time. Yeah, after a year I kind of decided that I wanted to make an Arduinotronic logo, not just the text Arduinotronic which I have been using, but an image type logo. And naturally I'm going to use Blender. And you can use Blender for all sorts of things, and in fact you can make Blender renders into t-shirts and logos and you name it. But what I want to do is a Chrome logo. It's kind of an AT, but it's very stylized, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load in some background images. So I'm going to add image, and I've drawn this out. I sketched it first on a piece of paper. In fact, I sketched about 20 or 30 on a piece of paper and came up with this one, and I scanned it in, brought it into GIMP, cleaned it up a bit. So let's go and find it. I'm not going to make any apologies for drinking coffee while I'm doing this tutorial because it's rather early in the morning here. There we go, Arduinotronic logo. And all views, so if I hit view front, my favourite view, there it is. Let's get the cube out of the way. In fact, let's delete the cube because I'm not going to use it. So you can see there it is, and we've got a big A, and the crossbar of the A is also formed by the top of the T, and it's a bit like the Star Trek logo, I have to admit, but I like it. It's like a rocket taking off with the flame underneath, or whatever the heck else. And what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to make this piece a chrome piece and make this piece a textured chrome piece. So really I'm kind of doing two logos in here, but let's get started. And actually from here I want to go view top because of the way that Blender places things like circles. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add myself a circle. Now there needs to be quite a few vertices on these. On here I'm going to actually put 100, and I'm going to scale it up. Now I know that my GIMP drawing is not going to be actually circular. As you can see, that is a circle, the GIMP drawing isn't. So I'm not going to be able to follow this. I'm not going to be able to follow this too much. I'm going to have to kind of play around with the sizes and dimensions to get something I like. So that's going to be my circular outside. In actual fact, I think I might prefer it to be squashed. So if I prefer it to be squashed, that's easy. I'm just going to select that, scale it inwards, and now we're quite a reasonable match for the logo as drawn in GIMP. So I'm going to use the mirror modifier. So the first thing I want to do, I'm actually going to box select everything on the right hand side. Oops, I will after I go into edit. Hit A to deselect everything, box select everything on the right hand side. There. Going to hit X to get rid of the vertices, and I'm going to go into modifiers. I might as well get rid of that menu there, N to get rid of it. I'm going to add a modifier. The modifier I'm going to add is obviously mirror, and it needs to mirror things in the y-axis, not in the X, and we won't see anything until we go into object mode. And merging clipping turned on. So, oh no, it's the Z axis I need to mirror it in, sorry, my mistake. Why aren't we mirroring? That's no good. Oh, well, X-axis anyway. How bizarre. Okay, well, we'll take that. So, go back into view top after that little bit of fracas, and I'm going to duplicate it and scale it. Hit the escape, S for scale, and we'll scale it down so it fits our inner circle. And literally we are going to make this circle a separate piece. I think this is going to be by far the easiest way of doing it. So I'm going to go back into edit mode. No, I'm not going to go into object mode first. I'm going to join that one to that one, hit shift, select both and join. Now I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to hit A to select all vertices and F for face. So now we've got a solid object. As you can see, it's a solid ring which eventually will be extruded, but I'm not going to worry about that just for the moment. So I'm going to view top, and I'm not going to apply yet because there's other things that I wish to do to it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this to another layer so that it gets it out of the way. Need to be an object first. Don't forget to switch to object mode. You can use tab. For tutorial purposes I'm using the menus because it's easier for a beginner to follow. So there we go, I've moved it to that layer there. As you can see, it's on that layer there and not on that layer there. So now the next thing we want to do is we want to draw our A, and I'm debating whether or not to actually have the tips of the A come outside the circle. I don't think I will. So first thing to do is to add another circle. It's full of circles, this is. So where are we? Mesh circle. On 100 again, which is fine. S, don't forget, the more vertices you have in your circle, the better the resolution. Now this is definitely going to be an oval. So I'm going up. You see what I'm doing is I'm kind of looking at that curve there and I'm trying to match that curve, and that's near enough. So if I move this about now and try and get a match onto there, you see it wants to be just a tad wider. Like that, and maybe down a bit, like I rather like that in sweep. So I think I'm actually going to have to scale this down a bit to get that in sweep. And let's see if we can... there you go. Look at that. You don't get a lot of a better match than that, I don't think, for something that's been drawn from eye, really, because that's all the original drawing was. Something that I drew just straight off the bat. So now I want to duplicate that and twist it around a bit so I get that curve there. So look at that. And this is what I meant by shall I actually let it come outside the circle? I don't think I will, because I've let the T do that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip it off at that circle there. Right, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go into edit mode, and I'm going to get rid of all the bits of this that I don't actually want. So obviously anything that doesn't intersect there, and there's an easy way to select lots and lots of pieces, and I'm going to show it to you now. So I'm going to hit A to deselect. If I view top again, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this here image that I've got so I can see things a bit easier. I'm going to make it a lot less opaque. Now I can see things. Right, having done that, I know that I want to get rid of everything between there and there. So I've selected those two vertices, and I'm going to say select shortest path, which will select the wrong bit, but then I'm going to say to invert that selection. Somewhere in here there's an inverse. I know there is, there it is. So there you go. And now I can hit X, delete vertices, and I've got rid of all the vertices that I wanted to delete, apart from that one down there, which is easy enough. And now we're going to go back into object mode. I'm going to select this circle, and I'm going to do exactly the same, this oval rather, and I'm going to do exactly the same for that. A to deselect. Now, don't want that. Shift. Don't want that. Select shortest and select inverse. Vertices. There we go. Isn't that good? Nearly. We're nearly there. Not quite. Nearly. Now we've just got a little bit of tidying up to do. If we look, if I come down here, we can see that in actual fact this vertice here wants to go up to the circle, like so, and I can only do one of these at a time at the moment because I haven't joined them together yet, but hey, can't have everything. And this vertice here wants to go up and along, because these curves, I mean, being hand drawn, they're not quite real curves, so we have to kind of allow ourselves a bit of artistic license here and get a reasonable approximation to what we want. So there we go, that's those done. And now if I go back to object mode, I can tidy it. Well, before I tidy up that, I'm going to join these two. So I'm shift, select both and join, and I'm going to go into edit mode, and let's tidy up this one here. So this one here wants to come down and in. And in a minute we're going to switch on the we're going to put a mirror modifier on it, so both sides of it will be the same, of course. And now what we want to do is we want to drop that down so that it hits our circle, or near enough. And then what we want to do is we want to shift, click both of these. Actually, what I want to do is easier than that. There's an easy way of doing that, and that's to select one vertex, hit E for extrude, and select both vertices, and remember which one you selected last, and we're going to have merge at last. And now what we've got is we've got an edge in between those two vertices, as you can see. That's good. So let's quickly go back into object mode. Like I said, you can use tab to get between them, but for the purposes of this I'm not. A mirror, and you say, oh dear, that's not good. And the reason is that this object here, because it's made up of ovals, its origin is out to the right. So here we go, we're going to enjoy this. I'm going to go object, snap, cursor to center, and it already is, obviously. Object, transform, geometry to origin. Ooh, nope, that's not what we wanted. I'm going to Control Z. Sometimes I forget which one is which. Transform, origin to 3D cursor, that's better. Bang, there we go. Much better. Make sure clipping's turned on. And so now we've done our A part of the logo. So I'm going to move that, surprise surprise, into another layer. So I'm going to hit M for move it one layer over from where the other one is. So as you can see, now we've got our circle in that layer, and we've got our A in that layer, and we've got nothing on here. Now the T is all going to be one piece. Forget the fact that I've joined it, because what this is going to be is going to be stacked up in 3 dimensions, and this is really why I wanted to use Blender to actually draw it. You never know, I mean, this might end up being 3D printed at one stage. Who knows? I don't. So we know that we've got 2 curves down here. We also know we're going to use mirror, so we're not going to bother with actually changing it. And we've got sort of a square shape there. So I'm going to start off with this curve. So surprise surprise, we're going to add another circle. Oops. Still 100 vertices, that's fine. Scale it up. I find it helps to keep everything the same sort of resolution. Then at least if you get any problems, the solution is the same all the way across the object. And we can see that this is again not quite a circle. So let's do what we did before, and we'll try and scale it and move it to try and get a good approximation of what this is. And it needs to be even longer in the Z-axis in order to get the shape right. We're nearly there. Now either needs to be even longer in the Z-axis, or it needs to be shorter in that axis, and I think it needs to be shorter. Let's try that. But all this curve fitting, I dare say somewhere you can get some fancy application that will do it all for you, but whenever I do it, it's just really a matter of eye, trying to get the whole thing to match up with what's on there. It's a bit of a game of trial and error, really. What we really want is we want that piece there to be there, so in actual fact we want it to be shorter. See if that does any different. Yes, look at that. See, whenever you've got a circle that blends with a line, you want to make sure that try to make sure that the 90-degree points are actually on the blend of the line, and that seems to be about where we've got it. That seems to be right. Golly gosh. Okay, so now we're into the old deleting mode again, so we need to get rid of what we don't want. I think the last one is there. That's the final segment that we want to use, and the final segment we want to use is there, so oops, need to hit shift. I'm forgetting things. So select shortest path and invert it, and X, get rid of everything, vertices, and you say to yourself, right, now what are we going to do? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that vertice there and I'm going to move it, and my next question is, do I want that to overlap with our circle or not? I think I do. I'm going to take it out near the outside edge somewhere. You can see if I shift and move it about, you can see it's going down a little bit, so I want to pull it up so it's a straight line. Now I'm going to do E for extend, extrude rather, because you can extrude edges just the same way as you can extrude faces. E again, and this one will come all the way into the center, like so. Well, that was quite easy, wasn't it? And we're going to do the similar sort of process down here, except we need to add a few more vertices to make this sort of thorn shape at the end here, which I think is quite critical to the way it looks. So just gonna, there we go. So I'm going to move it down, and I want a longer spike. I'm going to start the spike off there, so I'm going to do E, hit escape, drag it down to the very bottom and drag it in towards the center, like so. I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to add my mirror modifier, you can see it's actually gone that side, because of course what we need to do is to transform our origin to the 3D cursor, bearing in mind that is actually still in the center. If we'd have moved it, we'd have had to recenter it again. And that's our T. And now I'm going to do something that I think I forgot with the last one, which is to hit F to convert, to actually make it a faced object. Need to do that in edit mode, however. So I'm going to select everything, hit F, and now everything's got a face, and it's a poly face, but I don't think that's going to matter. If it does matter, we're in for a lot more tiddling around later. I haven't actually built a logo since Blender allowed polyfaces, probably about a year ago now. Right, I'm not going to move it because we're going to do our thing with this in a minute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that other layer here, go into edit mode, and yeah, we haven't got any faces on it, so that's A and F. So now we've got real solid things that we can do something with. Always a good idea. Okay, so starting assembling this, if you like, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this here ring as being the easiest thing to play around with. So I'm going to go into object mode, and the ring is here, so I'm going to select that. I'm going to move it to our main layer, sorry, M for move, click on the first one there. Now the ring is there, as you can see. So what to do with the ring? Well, the answer is fairly simple. In actual fact, I am now going to apply the mirror modifier. So there you go, that's gone. Going to go into edit mode. Everything is still selected, but just to make sure, I'm going to hit A twice, and E to extrude, and I'm going to make that come up like so. Then I'm going to do an S to scale it. I've kind of scaled it in, as you can see, just a little bit, and I don't quite want it that tall either. Okay. Now I'm going to select two of these vertices here. I'm going to select edge loop, and that's interesting. Okay. Because really I want to select all of this around here. What happens if I hit select edge loop again now? That's better. It's actually done something I wanted it to do for a change. Right, and hit S again, but this time I'm scaling out. So now what we've got is we've got a beveled ring, a bit like the ring on the Mercedes logo. And that looks good enough to me, and that's effectively how that is going to be. Very good. Now we've got a bit of tiddling around we're going to need to do in a minute, because I want this sort of thorn shape here to come over the top of this logo, and that's going to mean that I'm going to want to make this area here dip down, so like that, and that gives a nice pocket, if you like, for that to fit into, and it will give it the 3D effect of it actually going through the logo. So I'm going to come out of edit mode, because I think that's all we need to do on there. and select our T, which is the next layer up, if you like. I'm going to have to move this. No, I'm not actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude it first. So I'm going into edit mode now. I'm going to, before I do that, I need to apply the modifier. Then go into edit mode. That's better. E for extrude. And what do I want to do with this? Do I want to make this a really I mean, you could make it really tall. Actually, I think that's going to look quite good. Yeah, I think that is actually going to look quite good. I'm going to leave it as that. I'll maybe thin it down a little bit, actually, thinking about it. Like so. Great! And now the next thing I'm going to do is, if Blender will let me do it, I'm going to hit I for inset. And this is where I'm worried about whether Blender will let me do it, and I don't think Blender will. Some things with polyfaces don't work very well, so I'm going to hit escape to get rid of that. So I thought it might be nice if there was a little ridge around the outside, but maybe not. So perhaps instead of that I can use bevel. Use the bevel modifier, maybe. And it's kind of got a bevel. Width is a bit drastic. Maybe 0.05, something like that. Three segments. It's kind of done something weird down at the bottom there, but actually I quite like that. So I'm going to leave it. I think that's going to look quite cool. Looks almost intentional, doesn't it? I'm going to leave that. I'm going to apply my bevel and leave that. I can always edit it and play around with it later, of course, on a vertex by vertex basis, but I don't think I need to. Right. So I'm going to drop that down slightly. So now it should actually stick out behind the ring as well, which it's doing. And now we need to worry about our A. Apply the modifier there and move it onto our main layer. And this is going to come up because this comes in front of everything else. It kind of sits just on top like that. So we need to go into edit mode. E for extrude. And whenever you're extruding, don't forget to hit escape and use the handles, or G, Y or GZ or whatever. Because otherwise you'll find it's very, very hit and miss. Very, very slapdash. Right. And I'd quite like this to be kind of rounded. So maybe a subdivision surface would be the thing to use on there. And oh look, it's split it into two parts. Don't like that. So get rid of that. Maybe it's our old friend the bevel again. I wonder. Wonder what bevel's going to do. Bevel's going to do that as well. Look at that. Okay. So I'm not a big fan of this because it's actually split into two halves. I'm not sure why. I think that when the mirror modifier was on there, these two vertices here weren't merged. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly edit everything so that everything gets merged. Right. So if I get rid of, I'll go from there to there, get rid of that edge, like so. Do the same on the reverse. Let's get rid of the faces. Let's get rid of the faces actually. Cell, select faces, X, X. Now you can see why I had things moved onto a different layer. So it makes it a lot easier to edit, and I think I'm just going to do that again. So I'm going to move this back onto another layer. That's M, shove it over there. Right, now we can see what we're working at, or on, should I say. And you can see kind of what's happened. So go back into edit mode. I'm going to hide that bevel modifier. Going to go in, I'm going to get rid of that, X. And yeah, you can see there's a gap here, look. Right, so that is easily fixed. Merge at center. Do the same here. Merge at center. Remove doubles. And exactly the same here. See, this sort of thing happens with Blender. Everyone makes mistakes. I've been doing it for a while now, and I certainly still make plenty of them. Right, that's better. Now I wonder what's going to happen if, whoops, select edge loop. Oh, look at that, it's done what I wanted again. Amazing. F for face. Select edge loops, F for face. Oh, that's a lot better. We've now got a nicely cleaned up A. So I'm going to move it back to the layer I was playing with it on before, so we can see what it looks like with the rest of our logo. And let's turn this back on again, and you can see now that that's working properly, which means that with any luck the subdivision surface will work properly. No. Dear me. Okay, so we're not going to use subdivision surface on that for sure. We can, however, use bevel because it looked like bevel was working fine. Bevel width, turn that up a bit. It's not going to let me bevel it as much as I want. Okay. Wonder why that is. Have we got enough? We've got 2 segments at the moment. It's 3, 4. 4 I think should be enough. Before I apply that, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a similar thing to what I did with the ring and move the edges in. Seems to be a good idea. So we're going to edit mode, and remember, in edit mode you do actually just see the actual base mesh. That's all you're editing. You're not editing the mesh with the modifiers applied, which makes life a lot easier. So, I'm going to hit S for scale. Just kind of tipped it in a bit. Then I'm going to hit, actually, there and there. Select shortest path. Gosh, that was exactly what I wanted it to do, which is cool. Scale, scale out. And I'm going to move it up a bit. Move it up a bit further, I think. It gives it a kind of swooshy shape. That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay. So go back into object mode. Pull that down so that it cuts into our ring a bit. I think that's rather good. Very sort of swooshy and futuristic. So let's add some materials. We'll stick it on some sort of surface and do a render and see what it looks like. So we want a chrome material. So new. Going to leave all this as it is except for the specularity. I'm going to turn the hardness up to sort of around there, specularity up, and give it a sort of metallic, whoops, not that blue, sort of a slight blue tinge to it. It's not transparent, but there's a hell of a lot of mirror, and the mirror is going to have a slight blue tinge to it too, because it's chrome. And guess what chrome does that? Fade to material, and we're just going to call this material here, we're going to call it chrome, and I might do the A as like a black chrome. That's often quite effective. We'll have a look and see how that works. So I'm going to change the name of our material here to be chrome, and I'm going to copy that material here, and here's how you do that. Basically, I'm just going to make that chrome like so. I'm going to make it single user, materials and texture, selected objects. So now it's called Chrome 001. I don't want it that, I want it texture chrome. And I'm going to give it a texture, and I'm not going to let this influence the colour. It's just going to be the surface. I would like to use noise, but you can't really control that very well, so I'm going to use this stuck eye texture, which incidentally means plaster. It's Latin. And give it a fair amount of texture, maybe 0.3, 0.4, something like that. See what they both look like. And we're going to be in a cube. There's quite a lot of turbulence. Drop the size down, and there you got kind of like the sort of finish you'd get from a machine shop. And let's just align the camera to this view. We'll just render it to see what the materials look like. You can see that's what we actually get. And is that what I want? No, it's not at all actually. So let's change the texture. Let's go back to the good old clouds. Still not a big fan of that. Let's try again. Let's try Voronoi. Oh, that's better. I like that. We just want it a bit smaller. 0.02 maybe. Let's try that. I like that. I don't want it all over. I just want these two sort of like center panels. So let's do that. Let's change this in terms of view of materials. and we will we go into edit mode, we'll hit A for select all, and back into materials, add a material. New material is going to be the chrome, as we were before, and we selected all, so we're going to assign. Okay, so the whole thing's going to be smooth chrome all over. Then we want to select these two panels, which we'll do from face select. So selected there, selected there, and we go to texture chrome, we assign those, and we render it, and we should get what I was looking for. Should do. But for some reason we're not, because we've still got an area here. I think this possibly has something to do with the fact that the bevel isn't applied. So show hide render view, and we'll hit all, make everything flat chrome again. Just render that to make sure that that is like that, and it's not. Render, show hide render view, what is going on here? Definitely selected all. I'm in edit mode, I've hit assign. If I hit A to deselect, everything, then hit select on there, everything comes back. Go into object mode, render image, really peculiar. Okay, let's try we're in object mode. Oh, we did apply the bevel. I think what we've got here is just an artifact of it being a curve. So perhaps if I say to make it smooth shading, that will go away. Yeah, it has done. Okay, panic over. Blender is working as stated. So select those two, go back into materials, texture chrome, assign, render image. That's better. That's what I was trying to get. Good. And I guess if I go into object mode, really I ought to set this to smooth shading as well, and that. Right, so we're going to go into a new material here for our A shape. I'm going to make it black chrome. Now if you've never played with black, exceptionally glossy and mirrored materials, you're in for a treat. Make it slightly blue again, wind up the hardness, and mirror, highly reflective, but it's black, chaps. Something like that, I think. Or does it? You see, I can't remember what I did the last time I did this. I think it was just drop down the intensity a bit. That's it. So you've just got like a black material. Right. Let's view camera. Actually, I think this view is quite nice. So view, align view. Now where are we? I want the camera to be a bit further away. View top. View camera. G. Z. So we're moving upwards. And we'll rotate the camera around a bit. And all I'm doing is I'm just setting up to get a reasonable other way. I'm just setting up to get a reasonable render. Now I'm going to put a plane at the bottom here. It's not going to coincide with the bottom of our... It's not even going to be... Actually, I better join these together and make them the logo first. Right, so I'm going to join all these together. You can separate them out later if you wanted to, but I'm going to be calling this in from lots of different... Let's just render that, see if that worked. Hang on a minute, let's save it first. Save as, it's going to go in assets, it's going to go as Arduino logo, save as Blender file. Let's do a reasonably quick render, however long it takes. Right, a little bit of tinkering with the materials, that's what we get. Pretty good, I think. Now I'm going to do a short animation, and we'll see what it looks like in a kind of animated mode. And here's the results of the animation. Now I've done this because I'm going to use this in a lot of animations, so I wanted to make sure that it looked good when it was animated, and it does. I like the way it shines, I like the way it moves, so that's absolutely brilliant. Now what I want to do is I want to produce a pictorial version so that I can use it as literally a logo. And so here's how I would do that. Now this view of it is actually perfect, so I'm not going to change the view. I'm viewing top down. I'm going to change the lighting slightly because I've found for doing these things that people are used to the light coming from the top right. So I'm going to change the lighting. I'm going to change its position. Rotate it a bit from up here, like so, and that should be absolutely fine, I think. And now what I want to do is I'm going to do quite a high quality render, so I'm going to change the resolution, and the resolution is going to be, basically it's going to be 2300 by 2300. This is just my preference for doing this kind of logo. Now I want to take the camera further in so that obviously the logo fills up more of the screen. So if I view left, and where's the camera gone? There it is. And I'm going to move it down like that. I'm going to insert a keyframe location, view camera. You see I've gone in a bit too far, and I can correct that here. Come out, and that's about right. That's about how I want it, and it's quite nice. I've got these areas where the spotlight is doing its thing down there, and I'll go back into render. I'll make sure I've got full sample, and very often Catmull ROM works better on really shiny things. Don't ask me why, it just does. And output, I had it as X video, PNG is fine, and that will really do. So I'm going to render this. Oh, actually, I want a neutral background. So, you've selected our background. I want to turn it into a neutral colour. I don't want it grey, however. I'll have it tending slightly towards the blue-grey end. And I'm doing this so that the logo itself stands out. And is that good enough? No, because we're too close there and there. So come into the textures, turn down that to 0.05, and actually that will probably do. Turn up the intensity of the surface, turn up the specular intensity and make that slightly blue. Now what does it look like? No, don't like it. It's that texture I don't like, so I'm just going to get rid of that texture. Instantly that looks a lot better, I think. So it doesn't look better in terms of an animation, but in terms of an image to use as a logo, it looks a lot better. You can see it got the top clipped off and the bottom clipped off, so I'm still in too far, so don't know how that happened. I must have not been paying attention. Oh no, I know how it happened. I forgot to set the keyframe, didn't I? Insert, location, rotation, render image, because of course when you forget to set a keyframe it just goes back to whatever it was before, which we had moved it away from, so we lost the top and bottom. But here we go, and you'll see that when you're on full sample it's going to do some little like mini renders, and this is how it decides where everything's going to be. I did, by the way, add a glare node into all of this. I think I'm paying the price at the moment because I think I'm going to have to turn the glare down or off even. No, I'm going to have to turn it off. Right. Back into compositing, and I'll put this glare node in just to actually give the animation a bit of spice. But obviously with a still image it doesn't work really so well. So there we go. And do I want all this darkness around the edge? I think I don't actually. So let's just do that again. See what I mean about spotlights? They're just so good. You can do so many things with them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to increase the size of the spotlight and re-render. And you see we've got nice soft realistic shadows, which is exactly what we want. And voila, I think that's good enough for anyone. So to save this image, save as image, where do we want it? I want it in my Arduinotronic folder. Odd new logo. .png, save as image. Now you can see I've got a nice image all ready to use on the web or resized. I can use it as a video overlay, whatever. I can also render this with a transparent background. Actually, I'd better show you how to do that because I'm going to do that anyway. So let's get Blender out again. Odd logo. And it won't remember what we've done because basically, but I don't want it that size anyway, so I might as well leave it where it is. I don't want it that size anyway. I'm going to get rid of the background, so I'm going to get rid of that plane like so. And if I go into the, where is it, the scene settings, I think it is, I think it's in scene, maybe not, layer, sky, get rid of that. And you can see it's rendered it against a transparent image, so we're getting out of it a transparent PNG. Let's save as image. Odd new logo, trans.png. And this now can be dropped into anything, any image program, whatever. There you go. Well, I hope you found this useful. If you have, please do the usual thing, like, subscribe and share it.